and welcome to the Art of Being Human. We have been talking about abuse, what it does to people, the effects it has on you, and I thought I would start out, we're going to continue with that today, but I thought I'd start out and describe to you what it really means to be in a dysfunctional family. You know, we talk about dysfunctions in families. We talk about people growing up in dysfunctional families. We have to remember that whether it's drug abuse, or it's alcoholism, or it's physical or emotional abuse, whatever it is that causes a family to be dysfunctional, you're going to get the same symptoms. So if you wanted to read books on alcoholism, Codependent No More, that's the name of one of them, but other books on alcoholism and what it does to cause a family to be dysfunctional, those symptoms will be applicable to anything that causes dysfunction in a family. So you could read those books and you could still have an understanding of dysfunction regardless of what the cause is. So let me explain it the way that a friend of mine explains it. He's a therapist, a family therapist, and this is the way he describes dysfunction. Supposing that you're on a plane and you're flying. I wish I had a toy model airplane with me, but I don't. You're flying, a whole family is flying in a plane together, and they're going straight the way that they need to go. Now, supposing one of them either becomes a drug abuser, or becomes an alcoholic, or becomes an abuser in some way, that abuser causes that plane to bank. So now it's no longer flying straight, it's actually tilted, and it flies tilted instead of straight. Now what does that mean? Everybody in that plane is also flying tilted. As long as the plane is straight, everybody in that plane is flying straight. Everybody's okay, everybody's functioning well. But as soon as somebody in the family has a problem, develops a problem, whether it's drug use or alcoholism is a big one, but so is drug abuse, or some kind of other abusive behavior, they get involved with the occult or they do crazy things, then they tilt because they're no longer being right, they're no longer being normal. But everybody tilts with them. So as they fly crooked, everybody in the family in that plane is also flying crooked. In other words, everybody is influenced by the problem that the person has. And so everybody suffers from it. So what is dysfunction? Somebody in the family has a big, big problem. And what happens is that everybody in the family suffers from that problem. And I think many, many families have a person that's alcoholic in the family or some kind of abuse. And what's going to happen is they all suffer from that. And as they all suffer from that, they all take on the symptoms that dysfunction is. So dysfunction is when a family member does not behave as they should, and I'm not being moralistic here, I'm just saying they develop a problem that causes everybody in the family to work around them to try to preserve a normal family life, which they cannot do because of the nature of the problem. They suffer, so the relationships within the family all change, and they change in a very negative way. So that is dysfunction, when you do not behave or a family cannot behave. A normal family will have love and care for each other. The parents will love the children will love the parents. They'll do things together, they'll get along. If one of them is sick, the others take care of them. There's all kinds of healthy things that go on, healthy interchanges that go on within the family members. But you do not have that in a dysfunctional family. People go off in their own directions. People try to preserve themselves, or people lose a part of themselves in trying to restore a normal family life. The wife won't say anything about the husband's addiction because she wants to try to work around him. Why Why does she want to work around him? She wants the family to be restored to normal, so she's trying to make normal out of a situation that can't be normal. It can't be normal as long as the person is not taking responsibility for their own decisions, for their own illness, you might say. They're not willing to work to make themselves better. And so everybody in the family suffers, and everybody tiptoes around the person who is the one who has the problem. But as a result, everybody has a problem because they can't function normally. They are always going around the person who is the perpetrator, if I can use that word. I know that we use the word perpetrator for sexual problems, for sexual abuse, and sexual abuse is one of the types of abuse that people have, that they go through, that causes the family to be dysfunctional. So let me get back to this chart. We have started the fears and emotions of people who have been abused, and this could be you. This could be a person who's not addicted themselves, but they've suffered from the addiction of another family member. And so you have, if you are the product of an abusive relationship, whether it be drugs, whether it be alcohol, whether it be abandonment, whether it be emotional or physical abuse, it can be any and all of those things. You will suffer these symptoms, and I've gone through some, but let's go, just let me read down here and start on fear of what others think. You go through guilt, fear of punishment, anticipatory fear, the what-if fears, the fear of loss of control, the anger, the depression, they are really combined as one. The fear of emotions, which also ends up as being the depression, fear of abandonment. Now we come to where we left off last time. The fear of what others think. Why do you care what other people think? Because a person who has been abused has an incredible desire to be liked. They have to be liked. They have to know that people like them, because as a part of the abuse, they have been told over and over again that they're not good enough. They don't have value. They don't have worth. I think I mentioned before about a little boy, young teenage boy, who killed himself because he felt he wasn't loved, and he thought that if he killed himself, his parents might love him because he was gone. Now that's tragic, that's absolutely tragic, but people have this fear that they are not going to be liked, and they have this incredible need to be liked. To be liked means that you're okay. Not to be liked means that you're not okay if you have suffered abuse. And so therefore, your fear of what other people think, you just want to be liked. You just want to know that you're okay. You just want to know that other people love you, that other people care for you. You know, there are really three types of self-esteem. I haven't gotten into this much, but we usually say self-esteem is what you think about yourself. Well, that's one form of it, but it's also what you think other people think of you. And also the third one is what people really think of you. So you have these three types of self-esteem: what you feel about yourself, what you feel other people feel towards you, and what other people really feel towards you. And I focus on what you think other people think of you as the most common type of self-esteem issues, because if you think other people like you, if you think other people cherish you, then you tend to think, okay, I must be okay. People wouldn't like me if I wasn't okay. So therefore, I must be okay. So that's what you're thinking about yourself. This is self-concept. If other people like you, then you're okay. You're doing a good job. But you worry about that. Most people who have never been abused, they don't worry about that. They do the best they can, and whatever happens is whatever happens. You know, you do the best that you can in your responsibilities. You take your responsibilities seriously. You do a good job. You know you're doing a good job. And you're not so concerned about what other people think. But if you have been abused, you do worry about what other people think, because you have this incredible need to be liked. So what people think is important to you. And along with that, Never being good enough. You feel that you're never, never, never good enough. That means no matter how much you work at it, you just can't make the grade. And that's a horrible way to feel, because in your professional life, when you want to be stepping up the ladder of success, you're thinking, I'm not good enough for success. I'm never good enough for success. I never will be good enough for success. There is a fear of going through the emotions and going through your symptoms alone. I put through emotions alone. I might have put it in, or maybe should have put in, symptoms alone. If you have a lot of anxiety, and let's say you're seeing a counselor, the counselor goes on vacation for a couple of weeks. You don't see them. What do? You panic, because you're afraid of going through your symptoms alone. There's nobody to touch base with. There's no one you can call and saying, I'm having a real bad day, and I just don't know what to do. If you have a physical illness and you have a lot of pain with that physical illness, and your physician goes on vacation, or your therapist goes on vacation, or something happens, you will panic because you have nowhere to turn. There's a fear of going through everything alone. You don't want to go through things alone. You want to have somebody there, at least to understand what you're going through, so you feel that you can get some help. So that is one of the fears, going through your symptoms alone. Insecurity, just not feeling secure. I don't know what's going to happen next. Maybe I'll lose my job, maybe I'll lose my house, maybe I'll get fired. There's just a general insecurity. People who are not dysfunctional do not have that much insecurity. But I think now with the present day, when you have a lot of the financial problems, closures on houses, and losing jobs, and the financial situation of this country is not good right now, I think there's going to be more of a prevalence of insecurity, but it is one of your symptoms. The need to be liked, I've mentioned that before. You have a tremendous need to be liked, and you always expect the worst. Never the best, always the worst. That's what you expect. And so you can't rest in the fact that God's going to give you the best. It's always, well, what if this happens? How do I protect myself? I always have to protect myself from what could happen that would be bad. And that's the kind of thing that you do. That's one of the symptoms. You relive the fears and relive the past pain. In other words, a lot of the suffering that you have comes from past pain. You feel, you relive the past pain. It takes on a life of its own. You were rejected when you were younger, so now you're going to be rejected. You just feel that past pain over and over and over again. And so it takes on a life of its own. You're reliving the past, but the way that you do it, it comes up as if it's a present circumstance. It feels like a present circumstance. It attaches itself to a present circumstance. And when that happens, you feel the incredible pain of what happened in the past attaching itself to what's going on now and becoming one with an intensity that is amazing. It's a very, very amazing, intense situation. So you feel more strongly and more fearfully than what is needed for the situation that you're going through. You have a greater fear than what is necessary for the situation that you're going through. So you relive your past pain. If you can remember that you're doing that, you can cut down on that past pain. What I am suffering from now is what I've suffered from in the past, and it just magnifies itself. If I can cut out the past, if I can realize that my fear is more than what the situation calls for, then it's easier to handle that fear. If I have a fear of going to the doctor because I might have cancer, that may not be a realistic fear at all. But you fear that. If you look back into your past, one of your past family members may have died of cancer, or one of your friends may have gotten it, and you just take that past fear, mix it with the present situation, and then you have the recipe for a great deal of fear. Okay, so you relive the past pain. You have a fear of making decisions because you're afraid your decisions will be wrong. They won't necessarily be wrong, but if they are, they're correctable. But you're always afraid of making a wrong decision. Why? Because you feel that you're not worth anything. So therefore, that's going to further make you feel more badly, and you can't get over that. So if you make a bad decision, it's just not anything that you can recover from. And then severe loneliness, and I'm going to close on this one here. For loneliness, I think myself, just from what I've done as a therapist, I think loneliness is worse than depression. Depression, you fall in and out of. You recognize the symptoms. You fall in and out of it. But loneliness has a certain quality about it. Being absolutely alone, having nobody around you that you can trust, fearing that you're going to be stuck in an alone state. People fear aloneness. And you can be very alone in a big city, very, very alone in a big city. So you just fear that there will be nobody there for you. One, you don't feel worthy, you don't feel loved, you don't feel anybody cares that much for you, that they're going to help you. And so therefore you fear that you are stuck in an alone state by yourself, and that will never change. But of course it will change. Loneliness doesn't last any more than depression lasts. They both tend to have an ebb and a flow. And so you just need to remember that. It's not the end of the world if you're lonely. It's not the end of the world if you're depressed. Most people cycle up and down. And if you are doing something that you can look forward to, or being with a person that you want to be with, or doing something that's going to be fun, or going out and meeting somebody, you're going to find that loneliness changes very, very rapidly. As long as you're alone, it may be there, but change your direction, do something, get involved, and suddenly the loneliness is gone. So I'm going to pretty much close it here, because we have finished this whole section, and the next time I'm going into behavior. How does a person who's abused behave? What is different about their behavior than other people? It's not necessarily bad behavior. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. And so when you go through the fears and the emotions, you can understand why it is that your behavior would be different. So I will close it now, and please join me next time.